Joining me now is Laurie Garrett. She's a former senior fellow for global health at the Council on Foreign Relations and the author of the book, The Coming Plague. Laurie, we know you're very busy right now. Thanks for coming on and giving us your time.
Thank you.
Well, we are starting to see countries now impose increasingly harsh, severe lockdown measures. Spain, Italy, and others are following what China did weeks ago. Meantime, though, here in the U.S., these are still, for the most part, decisions being made at the local level, whether it's closing schools or a sporting event, or, as we are seeing now, a banning of gatherings of a certain number. Should we be handling it this way, in this patchwork way?
Well, no, we shouldn't. We should have a uniform policy across the country, but we have a unique system in the United States. Unlike the countries that you named, in fact, most countries in the world, we don't have a top-down public health apparatus. Public health in America grew from the bottom up. And so most of the laws, most of the regulations, most of the authorities are at the level of cities and counties, not at the level of the national at all. And so, in fact, things you hear from our Centers for Disease Control, which is federal, of course, tend to be guidances or recommendations. It doesn't really have the authority to order the states to do anything.
And do you see that as a problem moving forward as this gets worse before it gets better?
Well, I think everybody who's ever been involved in modeling and understanding what was going to happen to America in a serious epidemic saw this as a special weakness in the American capacity to respond. In fact, in almost every single tabletop exercise I was ever in where various key players role-played what they would do in a crisis like this, things broke down between the states. States closed borders against other states. And well, we haven't hit that point yet, but without really, really coherent, clear, powerful guidance from the federal leadership, the states are left to just scramble and make up their own policies as they go. And you drive, across the state line, and it's a whole different set of epidemic policies.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure about whether to cancel my destination wedding that's coming up in 2 weeks. Just did, thanks to the CDC saying don't do that if for any gatherings are 50 or more. Of course, that came from the CDC as a suggestion. You talk about the need for coherent and clear leadership. We've been hearing from the Trump administration about these tests that would be available, which are not yet available. Do you think they've come from behind? The Trump administration will be able to give that coherent and clear message, the structure that this country has been needing and been asking for?
I don't know. We've seen things change almost from press conference to press conference. Sometimes 2 or 3 times in the same day, policy has changed from the federal level, from the White House level. It's a time of tremendous confusion across the country, and the messaging isn't clear. One moment, the president will say, as he did today, America, relax. And the next moment, we'll hear, it's a time for urgent action. We're in a desperate situation. Well, if you're the average American, what are you supposed to believe? What is the message? How bad is it? And I mean, for many of our international partners, this all looks rather strange. What's going on in America? Especially when you look around the rest of the world and see how severe the policies have to be, how urgent it is that you act swiftly in the early stages of your epidemic, and how dangerous it is to delay even a day, much less weeks, in your response.
Well, right now, we're relying on these state and local situations, taking it into their own hands. With that being said, Laurie, what do you expect as far as our ability to contain?
I'm not optimistic. I think that we're looking at a very tough 3, maybe 5 months here in America. I think that we're going to see tremendous differences in how localities respond. It's going to continue to be quite frightening and confusing for most Americans. I'm speaking to you from New York City. Our mayor today decided to close all of our schools ordered that no restaurants can have more than 50% capacity and must have customers seated far apart from one another. And almost all forms of entertainment have closed down. I just came in from checking out what it looks like outside, and the streets are deserted, utterly deserted. Almost looks like Wuhan, except we have more cars moving about. But I tell you, you can go, 20 yards in another direction or 5 miles that way, and the picture will be completely different. One town across the river, the Hudson River in New Jersey, Tarrytown, has completely locked down, but towns nearby are completely wide open. This patchwork approach is not going to work. And what you'll see is slowly over the next 7 to 10 days, airports will close, train stations will close. We'll see almost no interstate transport except by highway, and that will be limited. You'll see more and more cities locking down, perhaps not to the level that we saw in Wuhan, China, but locking down perhaps at the level of some parts of southern Italy. And it's going to escalate dramatically, and it's going to start really rapidly.